welcome everyone back to the Learning Clinic on CKLU 96.7 FM. I'm your host, Bob Curlin, and as promised this afternoon, we have in the studio with us Joe Cimino, who is running for the Ontario NDP party in the Sudbury riding. Joe, welcome to Rancha.
Well, thank you very much for having me, Bob.
I know it's a busy day. You're going from subdivision to subdivision, from apartment block to apartment. I think you're on your way out to the valley after this,
Yeah.
but very nice of you to drop in, take time. We're going to try to take
Sure.
about 30 minutes and find out. We know a little bit about who Joe Cimino is as a councillor, but who's Joe Cimino as an Ontario NDP candidate? And so give us a little bit of background for the people who don't.
Yeah, thanks for asking that, because I think it's important, because a lot of people, you're right, know me as the City Councillor Ward 1, he's brought us a lot of parks, he's brought us community spaces, he's always answered our calls same day, answer emails immediately, so that's great. I'm getting, I have that reputation for being responsive, and that's what I promised when I first started running for municipal politics in 2000. But I'm the same story that can be told across Canada. I'm a son of two immigrants who came in the early 60s from Italy. And my dad, came here with nothing, and it's the same story again that you would hear across Canada, and he and in a lot of places. And he was a laborer, and then picked up a trade. He's a cement finisher, and he laid some tile. Worked for many companies, and then eventually opened up his own business, small business. My mom was a cleaner, a janitor at Eaton's at Laurentian, right here in the residences, and did a lot of side job. And what I learned from them is they worked hard to see their family get ahead. And it was important that they taught me the work ethics. I would see my dad leave when the boom was in Timmins. He'd leave for weeks, months at a time, and work and come home and do some side work at the house and et cetera, et cetera. So they really taught me the work ethic, and they were very supportive of me. And I think that's why I attended Laurentian University. And right after I finished university, I began community service. I sat on various committees across the city, economic development committees, committee of adjustment. I helped sit on the committee that brought the faculty of education to Laurentian. I was a playground president for 10 years at Dalpidozi. And that's when I decided to run for council, just to contribute more to my community. And after 2 times of not being successful, I finally won in 2006, acclaimed in 2010. And so I'm committed to this community, and that's basically why I'm running provincially and for the NDP, is because I want to continue my service. I'm a public servant, and I love this community. And with the background I have on council, especially with going through 7 or 8 budget deliberations, I think I have a real insight in what the community needs, and that's why I'm running. And I'm 100% behind the New Democratic platform. I'm committed to the party. The values of the party are my values. I'm a working class, raised the middle class, and that's why I'm running.
There's a lot of similarities between running a city and being on council, and actually being responsible for making decisions that are province-wide.
Mm-hmm.
When you take a look at the need to know what the people want and to be able to make wise, informed decisions on their behalf. But there is a difference between representing a ward. You represent which ward?
Ward 1.
Ward 1. Between representing Ward 1, where you are the Ward 1 party, and then you're going into a new arena now where you basically are running 3 or 4 parties, and there are party platforms. So we're going to get into the party platform in the time we've got, but what do you see as the big differences between what you're doing now and what you're going to be doing?
Well, you're Bob, again, you're 100% right, because when I ran for council, I made it a concerted effort not to bring party politics when I was running for council all the way back in 2000. Prior to that, while I was working in community groups, and just being a representative of my ward, West End, Gatchel, Robinson, Martindale, and Moongalow. So you're right, it was me, and I had my community action network established, my several visioning meetings. So I was able to bring to the forefront what I'm hearing from my community, and really take those challenges on around the council table. Now obviously with the party system, I'm representing New Democrats of Ontario. And I think it was important when I sat with my family and said, I said to my wife Louisa, I'm really thinking of running provincial. And there was no question that I would run for the New Democrats, because when you take a look at the platform, again, and we'll get into it, it's one that I can grasp, and one that I can be proud of. So I'm running for the party that's in my heart, and that's important. And what I do like also about the New Democrats is prior to the budget, and meeting Andrea several times, and meeting many of the MPPs and other candidates, and going down to Toronto for the council meetings, it's one that really represents what I'm about. It's listening to the people and coming up with a platform, coming up with ideas that we're hearing. So even myself, prior to the red green drop, I had several meetings around town in terms of what people's views are in the budget. So it's different, it's a party, but it's very important to be with a party that you believe in, and I believe in the NDP.
So I guess you really do have to believe in their policies and their platforms, because it would be hard to.
Absolutely.
It would be hard to try to promote a platform that you don't believe in.
Absolutely.
Just to get elected.
Absolutely, like that, you know, and I don't know if you wanna get to the platform now, but when I take a look at what we put together, it was based on consultation. And it was based on people saying to us, you know what, life is getting more expensive. We have to keep more money in our pocket than each month. So our political party, or the NDP, have come forth and said, you know, you're 100% right. Hydro rates are out of control. We're gonna start helping out with eliminating HST off hydro. The system itself is not working. We have 4 public corporations producing, distributing, marketing hydro. That has to be looked at. There's 4 of them. There's high wages on the top end that have to be looked at. There's the way we're selling or distributing hydro outside our jurisdiction for less than what we're selling to our own people. There's inefficiencies there that the full audit needs to happen. So, you know, we wanna pass on those efficiencies in hydro to our customers. And we're talking about car insurance, where the Liberals last year promised us, one of the deals was, we'll reduce car insurance, and it never happened. And we're talking about affordable daycare. So, and Sudbury is one of the 18 communities that are losing spots. So it's, you know, those are the things, and we're also, you know, we can't, I don't wanna harp on it, but we can't get away with the fact that we're listening at the doors, and we're hearing that people, you know, we gave the Liberals a chance. We wanted to make the government work. The NDP were there, not screaming from the sidelines. We were trying to make it work, and unfortunately with money mismanagement after money mismanagement, go back to eHealth, Orange, gas plants, and that was a few days back. Now there's another one, Mars, probably close to $500 million. It's, people are really concerned about that, and the New Democrats are the only ones saying we need a financial accountability office to take a look at these contracts. We need a cabinet minister of savings and accountability to make sure that the tax law is respected, because that's what people are telling us.
You know, and we're sitting here in the suburb and we're saying, gee, all we want is maybe $50 million or $100 million, but boy, you're talking about some astronomical numbers here.
And you know, people can't, it's hard to grasp billions of dollars.
I know.
And you know, the gas plant bill, 1.1 billion, and originally they said it was 200 and some million, but then they raised the, you know, then after the paperwork came out and the audit came out, you know, it was 1.1 billion. And if we just look at that one, and I don't know where Mars is gonna happen, because if they're saying 477 million now, is that the real number? Is it higher? You know, what could you have done with that money? So when you talk about, you know, where are you gonna pay for some of the programs we're pushing forward? Well, one of the big areas is the money that's in the system. So what could you have done with, say, 1.1 billion in the gas plant money? You know, that's a lot of effort to bring down wait times in the ER. That's a lot of, you know,
Daycare space.
Affordable daycare, which people need. That's a lot of, you know, frontline workers in schools, a lot of educational assistants, a lot of, it's, and you're in education, you know where the needs are, and I think people are understanding that.
What about the people like your parents who came over with nothing?
Yeah.
Because it seems as if we've now gone full circle to the fact that a lot of things that are kind of holding back our progress in the province is the fact that we don't have enough tradespeople to fill the needs, but we have a lot of people who are out of work.
Yeah.
That don't have the training. Like, is there a jobs and employment platform that?
Absolutely, and that's a big difference. It's going back to the basics of when my parents, and now they're seniors, so there's a whole discussion there on senior support.
Right, we haven't got to that yet.
Yeah, we haven't got to that yet. But the issue is, people are saying we need a change, because things aren't happening the way they should. When you have governments and 2 other parties, the Liberals and Conservatives, saying the best way to create jobs is just by giving corporations money, and we trust that they will create jobs, no strings attached, well, that sets us aside totally from what the New Democrats' belief is. Because what we're saying is, we need to create jobs, and we need to be able to measure how many jobs are created. So if an employer hires a person, an employee, well, they can receive 10% of that person's salary up to $5,000 back as a tax credit. So it comes after you hire that position. If you're a manufacturer and you purchase a piece of equipment or expand and you create jobs, you get a manufacturer's tax credit. We're lowering business tax from 4.5% to 3% to create jobs. We believe in buy local policy. We believe that minerals that are pulled out of the ground in Ontario are refined in Ontario. And we believe in what's in our platform is an emergent industries fund of $75 million. So if you're shooting film or you're in another creative industry, the arts, or if you're in innovation or research, well then you can have this fund to create jobs. So we're about creating jobs, and that's what's missing.
Seems to be, there's always a cost to everything that people wanna propose. And it seems as if there's a lot of things flying around the air right now in the last couple of weeks that
Yeah,
really have a lot of cost
absolutely.
when we know, we've been listening for so long about deficit.
Absolutely.
And the fact that we don't have a lot of money. How do you answer those questions door to door in terms of, well, everything you're offering and everything they're offering, everything's costing money?
I love those questions at the door, because the New Democrats have an answer. And the answer is not what we saw in this last budget, because this last budget really was an election budget. It was a budget, a lot of the issues, a lot of the things there are New Democratic values, which the Liberals brought into the budget to obviously bring into an election. And their budget would bring the government debt up to $317 billion or thereabouts in the next 3-4 years. And we're saying we need to go the other way around. So the New Democrats, those who have received our literature, will see that we actually have a plan to reduce the annual debt, the annual deficit, and then therefore start attacking the huger problem, which is the debt. And so one of the big things is the Financial Accountability Office and the cabinet minister in charge of savings accountability, which we're saying would bring in $600 million a year. That's extremely important. A lot of the money is in the system, and again, we can go back to the money mismanagements and the Mars, the new Mars scandal, that the money is obviously there. If you were just able to, $477 million of taxpayers' money has now gone away because of whatever story comes out of what happened. So the money is there. There's also the issue with input tax credits for corporations, which are loopholes, and tackling those will bring in close to $860 million by 2018. There's the issue where, for example, corporate income taxes are extremely low in this jurisdiction. They went from 14%, they were dropped to 11.5%. That's low, and we believe a small drawback, small, to 12.5%, which is still allows corporations a very respectable tax rate that allows them to prosper, would bring in another 680 to 790 million over the next 4 years. So there's a plan, and it's costed out, and it's actually, the monies that are saved within the system and is going to be more than what we're proposing on spending on programs that people are asking. So we want to go the other way. We want to make sure that the deficit is decreased.
Good. The whole issue of bringing down the government. For some reason, the NDP are being blamed for bringing on the government, but Franz Jelinek explained the whole process. And actually, the NDP didn't have a chance to bring down the government, did they?
No.
Like, it was never brought to a motion, from what I understand?
Yeah, and that's right. It was probably a procedural thing, but the issue is who brought down the government? I'd have to say, and I'm not trying to be negative or sarcastic in this, who brought down the government was the government themselves. Because and then you're right, at the door I do hear, you guys shouldn't have, pulled the plug, we shouldn't have gone to the polls, it's costing money. But after 3 years, last year we were hearing, try to make the government work, So the New Democrats and the democratic system did. They went forward and they tried to work with the government. This year was kind of different when you had 3 promises in last year's budget: lower car insurance, guaranteed home care targets, and then the Financial Accountability Office. Those 3 were very paramount in us saying, okay, we'll support you in the last year's budget, and we were promised, yes, you'll get those. They never happened. So now we have this budget that comes forward with 70+ promises, and some local, and some local that we've been waiting for a long time, i.e. Maley, and then all of a sudden it's in the budget during an election, pre-election period. So in the end, it was actually a trust issue with the government. That's what it came down to, is this budget promises a little bit of everything for everyone, everywhere. Can we trust that they're gonna do what percentage of those? And then, you know, it's time that we go to the people and ask.
Well, I guess that's the other question is, I mean, we can, locally, melee is a word that's been around since the mid-80s.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about melee.
Yeah. But the reality of it is that $27 million toward a $125 million project now it was fine back in the 1990s.
Absolutely.
It's gone way beyond the 27 million, and it's conditional on the federals putting in their money, isn't it?
That's why, and you listen to Premier Wynn's advertisements in town, and obviously they're targeted, the radio ads, and she's very clear. You know, I'm in support of, you know, Sudbury. I support Sudbury with almost 27 million towards melee. It's almost like they're proud of the fact that they've come to the table with money. Well, like you said, Bob, melee's been on the books for a couple of decades at least. And even more importantly, and I think people are starting to understand this, is the last two councils that I've been involved with, we passed motions to make melee top priority. We've spent the money on design. We've gone out and done the environmental. We have, the last two mayors have gone down to Toronto, councillors, staff, literally begging. You know, we're ready to go, and we have our third that the city put away in part of the development fee bylaw, other capital dollars. We're ready with our third. And like you said, the price has gone up. Can you imagine if we did this 20 years ago, we wouldn't be talking $125 million project today. And now all of a sudden, again, pre-election, all of a sudden melee is a priority of this government. My question is, where were they 8 years ago? Where were they 20 years ago?
And where are we gonna get the other 40 or 50 million?
Yeah, and theirs is conditional on federal dollars. With the NDP, and New Democrats are 100%, and Andrew's made it clear, 100% behind melee. And we're committing our third, whatever that dollar figure may be.
Well, up to 27 million.
Well, New Democrats, we're saying it's gonna be a third.
Good. Then we get close.
And we get closer without conditions, right?
Yeah. So when you take, melee is just one topic, and when you're talking about province-wide, you've got all kinds of these little projects all throughout the province. So very interesting when you take a look at electing Joe Cimino, NDP. So for the people that are getting disenchanted with politics, and there's a few.
There's a lot. There's a lot. All politicians are being painted with the same brush.
Everybody.
You know, I canvass every day, and they're saying the same thing. We're hearing it. Is all politicians are the same? You know, you guys you waste our money, and what are you gonna do for me? And you know, I'm not voting this
So
time.
why, exactly, why bother?
So you're right. There's a lot of discontent people out there.
So what do you say to a person that says, well, I don't know who I'm voting for, am I voting for Joe Cimino or am I voting for the NDP? And does it matter who gets in? Like, does the person make a difference in the Sudbury riding? I'm not, hopefully not putting it in a spot, how does a person who is part of a partisan party make a difference locally?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. So when I'm at the door and I'm asked that question, I hand out our platform, which is costed, and I say, please take the time to read this, because this is what the New Democrats are offering, and it's something I believe in 100%. And then I do bring the fact. I say, you know, this is my track record in Sudbury as a counselor and prior to counselor for many years.
So you gotta show what you've done.
Yeah, so I show what I've done. I say, you know, I think my integrity stands for itself. I would not do anything that would affect my integrity or the integrity of the community. So I've gone to the table at council when people say we need Marcel Street done. Marcel Street hasn't been done. We've been waiting 25 years. There's no sidewalks. The sewer and water are beyond repair. There's drainage issues, whatever. Petitions came out. I fought hard. And I fought hard with the staff. I fought hard with council to get it a priority, and it was done I believe my second year as council. So I promised people that I would always listen to them, and I said over 4,200 calls since 2006 answered same day. I can't even count the emails, and it's incredible. So when I'm at the door, I say we're not all the same. Politicians are not all the same, and you cannot be unengaged. It's a democratic system. Please vote, regardless of who you vote for. Please go vote, because it's important. And I just ask you to look at our platform and take a look at my track record. I've got insight into the budget. I've got insight into this. I have many relationships with stakeholders around town, from the hospital to daycare workers to to tradespeople. I have those linkages, and that's why I'm running, because I'm at the time of my life where I can bring this entire background that I have, and advocate for Sudbury.
And it's gotta be a little bit frustrating too, because, if you take a look at, I think politicians are a lot like hockey players, and, you know, you can sign a new prospect up, and the person's are gonna go out there to score 50 goals, but it doesn't mean they're gonna go and score 50 goals. So you're basically signing your hockey prospects up based on what they've done and what they've shown. And I think that's where, we get into this area where when people say, well, all you're doing is promising and you're telling us how do we know you're going to do exactly what you say? And I think it becomes really difficult when you have to say, yes, I am going to get that money for you, when it's conditional on somebody else.
That's right.
And you can't be blamed for not being able to get it if you can't get the other, the federal ones, the committee.
That's right.
So I think it's important that you have a bit of a track record.
Yeah.
And are people recognizing that being in the municipal arena should be qualification, or should at least get you the consideration to be put in a bigger arena?
I would think it helps. Like, I think it's a big factor, because, you know, you take a look at our situation with the roads, and our situation with the property taxes, and our water rates, for example. It's quick for people to come to the conclusion, well, our roads are a disaster, because it's our fault. Joe Cimino for somehow is causing this, or the water rates, etc. But being around the table, going through the budget process, taking a look at the cuts from the province, and uploading of responsibilities, I know the fact that the way we're funded municipally, for example, doesn't take into account, excuse me, our uniqueness in this province. Because people, excuse me, people say to me, I have a relative in Mississauga whose house is triple my size, paying the same taxes I'm paying. Well, then at least I can respond saying, well, we're not funded according to the fact that we have 60,000 tax bills or whatever it may be, a very small tax base, paying for geography, which has 3,300 lane kilometers of roads. So there's an issue with that. There's an issue with the fact that our wastewater system is totally paid by those who pay water bills and wastewater bills. So it's even less people supporting numerous wells in the valley, 69 pump stations, several sewage treatment plants and water treatment plants, which all need upgrading, and the water main break issues in town. So I think I can bring my insight into what are the challenges in Sudbury, and bring them forward, because I know, quote unquote, I know the reality of the situation, not just from hearsay or reading the paper or whatnot. Back to making promises, not being able to keep them. I think people of Sudbury are very, very informed in terms of, and we got this. My colleague here today with me, we were canvassing the Gatchel area yesterday, and we knocked on a door, and the lady said, Joe, I'm going to support you because I called you about this issue at Dalkidozi, and you responded right away. And not everything that I asked has been done, but at least you listened to me, and you told me that you would try your best, and that there have been improvements in terms of a certain issue, and we're still working on it. But I think people, in the end, and I think politicians, and I in particular, understand that it's the people who A, put us into a position, B, who are paying us to be there, and we have to be responsive, and we have to be approachable by them and accessible, and put your best effort forward. I think that's what people want, and I've always given my best effort, and people recognize that. And if I have the privilege to represent this riding at Queen's Park, I will give my 110% and continue the way I've been.
Sounds good. The door-to-door is very time consuming, but is it as necessary as it was in the past? Is it? Are you getting many people at the door when you?
Well, this weekend, Saturday and Sunday, for example, yesterday we went out from several of us, there's myself, but there's many teams. I'm trying to hit as many doors as possible. Obviously on the weekend you're not hitting a lot of people, but several at home, and they appreciate you being at their door and taking questions. We walked into one place and we ended up spending 10 to 15 minutes there, but we took the time. So I think it's important, and when I was running for council, 2000, 2003, 2006, I hit every door in my ward. I knocked on every door, sometimes twice. That's just my old fashioned, and Facebook and Twitter, I didn't go on to those social medias until I won the nomination for the NDP. So I was my, old style, old fashioned, even though I'm 44 years old, I was still meeting the people. So obviously with 40,000 plus households in Sudbury in a 5-week campaign, it's impossible to hit every door. Mathematically it's impossible, right? But I try to hit every area, and I'm out every single day.
Is there a silent majority that you're, that was, I think is a term that was coined by, if I remember, Jim Gordon. I think I was told that he said you have to be very cognizant of the wishes of the silent majority. Are you finding that as big in the provincial experience as in the municipal? Because there is quite a silent majority in the municipal.
The people that aren't outspoken,
You hear them.
You hear them, right? I just, all I can hope for is that people get informed. So the silent majority, and there's a loud minority, right, that have their platforms out and their visions out, and sometimes what they're putting out there is not 100% true for whatever reason. But I'm encouraging people, and then when I'm at the door, they say I'm undecided. I say, well, here's our platform. Please read all 3, read all 4, and based on what you hear, based on what you, and if there's any questions, give me a call. I think
it takes an awful lot of skill to be able to read what the silent majority is thinking.
it's very difficult,
and that's you're a teacher. I'm a teacher. Yeah. I mean, when you put out a lesson, you get some feedback from some of the kids, but I mean, you have to be looking for the signs.
And that's why
people.
Polling is so difficult, and because you don't know what that silent majority is thinking. You don't know if your message is getting across. You don't know
how the question was asked.
What
the question was.
Yeah, and what are people saying behind your back that you don't really know, right? There could be a lot of misinformation out there, and so I think it's important. Polling is nice, but I'm running like I'm in 3rd or 4th. I'm running that, give it my all. I've done that every time running municipally. I'm doing it now.
So you're offering people a choice.
Offering people a choice, and I think people, we're hearing very clear, people want change. People want change provincially. The main issues, again, is affordability. They're tired of the tax dollars being wasted. They want real job creation with measurable results. They want more money spent in healthcare and education, and that's what we're hearing. So we'll see. Again, this is cliche, but the only poll that matters is on June 12th.
That's right. And it's just kind of wrapping things up here. What I like is where we are moving toward the 21st century in terms of our thinking toward politics. Like the idea of the Meet the Candidates night, where you may have had, depending on what article you're reading, 100 or 200 people there. But the fact that it was streamed, recorded, and is now still available,
absolutely,
means that there's nobody in the riding who doesn't have the opportunity to go to that Meet the Candidates night.
Well, you're 100% right, because who can judge the platform and how each of us perform that night? It's very difficult to see it live or to see it recorded. Individuals then can go back and take a look and say, oh, that's what he actually said, or that's what she exactly said, not this is what I heard.
Yeah, that's the face when he said it.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think that's why, like we were saying, we're going across the world because we're streamed. We are live right now for anybody who's listening, but we also video record the radio show. So, and I put it up on thelearningclinic.ca, so it's there. So nobody can say that they didn't have an opportunity. And I think if there's anything that makes me so glad to be around in this generation is that I'm actually seeing a return to word of mouth.
Absolutely.
But using technology. And that's why I asked the question, is door-to-door as important as it was before? Because to me, give you a very simple mathematical equation. I've got 1,700 and some people on a Valley East Facebook group. There's 3 other groups that are associated with me. There's 6,000 contacts. Mathematically, there could be 1.2 million people seeing one post that I put. on Valley. And when they say, hey, by the way, have a look at this, you look at that.
Yeah.
And that's the old word of mouth. So you might only see one person on